When Women Speak.
And New Jersey Poetry Events presents When People Speak, Poetry and Conversation with pop-up poetry guests.
Your host will be Amira Shabazz Bilal.
And your co-host, James C. Ellerby. Well, good evening. This is our April edition of When People Speak, and I am your host this evening, your hostess this evening, Amira Shabazz. Unfortunately, our co-host this evening, Mr. James Ellerby, has had an unfortunate event happen. His father passed away early today, so he is unable to co-host this evening with me. Our prayers go out to James and his family, but we will go on with the program as scheduled. And of course, this is Poetry Month. So I am welcoming all of you out there on the live stream, all of our guests here this evening. And we do have a powerful lineup. For you this evening, we have Noel Figueroa, we have Ali Longo, we have Elijah Pringle, we have Selah, we have Mariah Askew, and we have none other than John Gavin White. So I am advising each and every one of you out there in virtual land to go ahead and get your dinner, put your dinner on, take a seat, and get ready for some powerful poetry. I will start the evening off today with a poem of my own, and it's simply entitled I. I am but a stone's measure from greatness, leave me be. From founders of memories and ancestral tribal water me. Grow me from places past seen, heart wishes beating. Place drums near my heart, help my flight, help my fight, help my life from beating me. Tell me truths of fathers still waiting for honor and dreams to reality of kingdoms of greatness. Don't modern me. Tell me truths breathed into my existence, strength from knowing death, but patience for life. Give me light. Sun rays lighting paths from moonlit escapes. It's following the real North Star which lights nights and consciousness for the weary. Give me sight. Nestle me in the lamb's wool. Comfort me with revelation that I am God's creation and He guides my greatness. Don't give me my destiny. I will plan it out for you. And don't give my destiny to fools. Don't dawn the head of every drifter and call him king. Leave that for the truly worthy and teach me how to be. Give me the raw of lines. Teach me to speak with mystifying captivation like X, like the color of noir, that I might brighten the path and lead the way out of the night. Show me the sweet essence of what they said Gandhi was. Crown me the king of kings. Yes, tat me if you will, the fire tat of X. Name me for greatness, strange is my noble essence. Then let me be. I will rise. I will rise. I will rise. I will. King of the Nile, Queen of the Nile, Prince of Tides, Princess of Tides, with noble glory, that is who I be, recognize. I be the princess who shall be queen. Nurture me that way. Prepare me for that day, for I am but a stone's measure from greatness. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to bring to the stage our first guest of the evening. Um, this is Brother Noel. Noel Figueroa is a poet, and he is also an author, a blogger, a workshop facilitator, an event host from Brooklyn, New York, who has been reading and writing poetry for over 10 years. He is the creator and facilitator of the Poets with a Purpose Poetry Workshop, which was established in 2018. He is self published, his first collection of poetry called One Man's Journey, and is currently preparing to release his second book, The Journey Continues. Both projects are released from his publishing company, the POETRY for Publishing Company LLC, and his blog, The Anoited Pen Scrolls, not only has poetry, but articles discussing current events, issues plaguing the church as well as a whole, and the joys and challenges that come with striving to live out in a Christian faith. You can find him on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Brother Noel. Noel, are you with us? Are you ready? How are you?
Hey, Amira, peace. How you doing? How's everything?
I'm doing well. Outside of the fact that my co-host is so down this evening, prayers go out to him, to me, and everyone, and from you, I would assume as well.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah, I
yeah,
heard you mention in the announcement. I send him my condolences. I'm going to reach out to him directly. Also,
thank you, Noel. Noel, I am going to remove myself from the stage. I'm going to allow you to present your poetry, and then when you come back, if you don't mind, we'll talk a bit. Is that okay with
sure,
you?
not a problem. Yes, that's
All right,
excellent. Thank you.
all right, Noel, I'm stepping off.
Good evening, everyone. Appreciate the opportunity to share this evening on When People Speak. I'm going to be sharing two poems from my first collection of poetry called One Man's Journey, which is available on my blog currently called The Anointed Pen Scrolls, which is on WordPress. The first poem I'm sharing is called What Dreams Are Made Of. Emotions that give birth to ideas that stand the test of time. When effort is placed on achievement of goals rather than the deceiving of souls. When love can exist without sacrificing truth. When there's a true meaning to colorblind. When all brothers are taking 2 steps forward instead of being 2 steps behind. These are what dreams are made of. When a brother is no longer stopped for no reason. When enlightenment and thought can conquer treason. When more brothers become leaders instead of followers. When jealousy and ridicule turns into encouragement and compliments. When we come together as one instead of dividing into many. These are what dreams are made of. When we all reach for the light instead of dropping into darkness, instead of dropping into the darkness that exists in a cruel world. When we make our communities more of a place to live rather than battlefields that compare to hell. When children can accentuate the positive aspects of life rather than be drenched in the negative that's constantly in sight. When we take responsibility for our actions. When we demand real change until we gain satisfaction. These are what dreams are made of. Thank you. The second poem I'd like to share with you would be considered my signature piece, or one of my signature pieces, which is called Color Me Creative. I am more than a mahogany king, engaged in a graceful dance. I am more than a caramel king with a voice not given my chance. I am every brown, dark or light, every shade of black. I am the musician playing blues to Bach, soul to rock, the painter painting like Monet or Renoir, or as the ancestors from Africa. I am the writer with pen in hand, painting visions with words that help understand, inspire, change, and release life. I am the actor in detailed plays that tell a story, my story, breathing life into today. I can be anything and everything. I can be everything and anything. I can be all that God wants me to be. My name can be in lights on a marquee. My face can be on a magazine, newspaper, or book cover, promoting my worth, my value, my substance. Color me creative. Let my abilities educate your soul and open your eyes to the truth of me being more than a sum of my parts, more than my skin color, hair color, eye color, more than who my mother is or who my father is or who my relative is, greater than stereotypes, typecasts, rumors, and ignorance, greater than my trials and my pains. Color me with the colors of my talents, the shades of my intellect, the hues of my spirit. Color me creative. Thank you. So that was What Dreams Were Made Of, and that second piece was called Color Me Creative. Again, you can find those selections from my first collection of poetry called One Man's Journey, which is available on my blog, The Anointed Pen Scrolls, at WordPress.com. I want to thank Amira and James for the opportunity to share with you all tonight. Thank you. I appreciate the time.
I'm not going to let you off the stage that easily. I do have a couple of poets that are supposed to be on the roster that haven't really joined us on StreamYard before, so they're having a little bit of problem getting on. So when you're done, I'm going to call up Elijah. Elijah, if you don't mind, while I help the others get into the back area or the green room. So Elijah, you'll be up after Noel. But Noel, I'm not going to allow you to exit the stage quite so easily, young man. I was listening to your poem and I was most encouraged by your words. And I just want to ask you a few questions.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
do you view writing as a spiritual practice? Because it appears to me from the writing, the poems that I was listening to, that this might be the case. Explain that to me.
Um, I don't know. I don't know if it's a spiritual practice would be the correct term. I mean, I guess a better way of describing it would be from a spiritual perspective. Not all of my poems deal with a spiritual perspective, but I would say a fair majority of my poetry does deal with a spiritual perspective out of my relationship with God. I'm a born again Christian, so most of my poetry comes from that perspective, out of my own personal life relationship with God. So sometimes, most of the time when I write, I will write poetry that deals with certain situations or certain aspects, either from my life or from current events, and it will have like a spiritual connotation to it, as to say, like, how would God view this situation, or how would God speak to this situation, like like um like, for example, my poem "Color Me Creative." Speaking from the perspective of of showing who or what my identity is, or what my value is, and I'm expressing to the audience, my identity, everything I am, and everything I'll ever be comes from God. I am God's creation, and He's put me on this earth for a purpose, and and my goal is to live out the totality of that purpose, not just a piece of it, or half of it. I aim to give myself completely to that purpose, and I want to display that in its fullness. Through my poetry to the audience that I may have in front of me at any given moment.
Yeah, I believe that comes through in the poems that I heard and the poems that I've heard on other platforms as well. But what I'd like to also speak about is the fact of trying to be religious, trying to be spiritual, and also trying to carry that title of poet. Do you run into any roadblocks? Do you run into any situations where it makes who you are or who you want to be a little bit difficult on any particular platform in the world of poetry?
Um, well, yes and no. Yes, in the sense that, in most spaces, you might be expected to fit in with everyone else, and I learned from years ago, I wasn't called to fit in, I was called to stand out. But in my early years, I wanted to so desperately be like everyone else and fit in and be accepted. But I learned, I got healed from that. As I started growing in my relationship with God, I learned that the only person that I need to worry about having accept me for who I am is God. And as long as I'm
Mm,
pleasing God, that's all that matters. So to a degree, it might be perceived as a negative that I don't fit into certain spaces, but I learned to be okay with that, because I know God Himself has specific assigned places
mhm.
for me to engage in. So my focus is on just being myself. Whether in conversation or through my writing, I just focus on being the person that God calls me to be, and not worry about exhausting energy trying to sound like anyone else, or write like anyone
Yeah.
else, or think like anyone else. So I believe that because I take that approach, my writing and how I carry myself has its own identity, and whoever's meant to gravitate to it will, and whoever doesn't. I already know I'm not for everybody, and that's fine. I'm okay with
Mhm.
that. That doesn't offend me, because I don't believe I'm for everybody. I just try to be the best that I can be, and whoever accepts it, great. you know because in the end, I know that I'm only assigned to a certain set of people anyway. As far as my purpose is concerned, I'm not called to reach everybody, but I'm called to reach somebody. You know what I mean? There's a certain
Absolutely.
segment of the population that I am going to reach with what I have to say. So I just focus on making sure what I have to say is relevant, making sure I'm transparent, making sure I'm honest with my words, and then I just leave the rest in God's hands.
Absolutely. Now I asked that question specifically because I fit in that area or that spectrum of being a poet. And sometimes I'm a little uncomfortable on certain venues, but I do know my purpose and I do know my plan. And it's a tough road sometimes, but you have to remain true to the cause and true to whatever it is that you believe in. And so I knew that you had a faith background, so that's why I wanted to ask that question. Now, here's my final question for you. With today's climate, everything that's going on, and knowing from your heart what's right and what's wrong, how does poetry help win battles for you in today's climate?
Well, I think us poets have a responsibility to document the times through our writing. We don't live in a bubble. Everything that's going on in the world affects us, and I believe writing helps us process current events. And it helps us to digest what's going on, and when it affects us individually, we're able to have the power to dissect what's taking place, and it helps give a perspective as to how to handle it. You know, like police brutality, for example. I wrote a poem, "This New America," which touches on police brutality and all of the ignorance and injustice that's taking place in this country that's been going on for years. Writing that poem was my way of processing those issues. So I think when I write, personally speaking for myself, when I write poetry and it touches on those issues, it helps me to take them into perspective, and it helps me to process them, and it helps me to heal from them. It helps me to cope. It helps me to identify what those specific issues are, and then it helps me to ask the appropriate questions, like, okay, this is what's happening. What can I do to make a difference? What can I do to impact somebody else's life? In spite of what's going on in the world. And I think poetry has the power to not only inform us and educate us, but it can be therapeutic. It can bring healing. It can enlighten minds. It can bring understanding and clarity, and it can make a difference in somebody else's life, even if it's just one person that you reach. You will know that you've made a difference, and,
Absolutely.
and I think that's what matters at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I think that as poets, our words are our weapons, and we cannot be quiet. We cannot shut up. Our fight is each and every word that we spew out into the environment, whether we're nudging others with our words, whether we're shouting loudly, whispering quietly. Yes, that's the activism as a poet, writing good poems, writing poems that address problems in current society. So, Brother Noel, do you have anything coming up that you want to advertise, or you want to tell us the title of your book, where you can get it from, the names of your programs, or anything like that?
Sure, absolutely. So, my first book is still available, One Man's Journey. You can find that on my blog called The Anointed Pen Scrolls, which is on WordPress.com. I have two. I'm also doing a podcast called the PWP Session.
Okay. That's really cool. Hopefully, some of the people out in the audience will be able to jump on some of those programs. When you sign off, if you go and type that in the chat, I will display it on the platform marquee so they can have it in writing, and they'll be able to jot it down, so they'll be able to catch it and not miss it. Brother Noel, thank you so much for being a part of When People Speak, and I will see you next time.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Have a good evening. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Have a good evening. So, ladies and gentlemen, out there in virtual land, that was Noel Figueroa. He was our first invited poet on When People Speak, and we're going to move the program right along. But there may come a time in life when you're in certain relationships, and you need a little nudge to move, or a nudge to become better or move to a better place. So the title of this particular poem that I'm going to read next to you is When Leaving Ain't Really Leaving. When leaving ain't really leaving, I look back after hearing you talk smack. When leaving ain't really leaving, I smile at words that cause my heart to swerve and crack. 'Cause you didn't really mean it, did you? When leaving ain't really leaving, I'll smile through eyes that hide pain badly. When leaving ain't really leaving, I'll say I love you too through cusses thrown back. When leaving ain't really leaving, I'll smile on reverse, ears really hear. Words that cut now cause me to swear. When they used to bring tears, broken heart pieces collected, piled into my pocket threads. Eyes are on what used to be red. A's, eyes able to shed tears and mascara that smears. Pain turned up reality. I guess I'm gone. I guess I'm gone. I guess I am gone. When leaving is finally leaving, buried deep down somewhere, I find me. I found it. It's my freedom song. When leaving is finally leaving. When leaving is finally leaving. When leaving is finally leaving. I have next coming to the stage a brother whom I've met several times on several poetry platforms. Um, he has the title of, or the name of, or he goes by the name of Elijah B. Pringle III. He is a true artist, has facilitated workshops on business, creative writing, and has been published in North America, Europe, Asia, and Africa. His credits include work in radio, TV, stage, and film as an interviewer, writer, actor, singer, dancer, choreographer, and director. He counts as his inspiration, his failures and credits, his true education to 5 generations of teachers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our stage, Brother Elijah Pringle.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Elijah.
I don't know what happened. My system is not working right, so I do
Mhm.
apologize.
So the hostess always has to be ready with these poems in her pocket because that space has to be filled. We're live on Facebook. Can't have any dead silence going on. So Elijah, man, don't leave me hanging like that again.
I know. I'm not going to mention who my internet provider is, but I am getting rid of them.
Okay.
They've been bad, it seems like, for an eternity. So those of you who know what I just said, you know who I'm talking about. But
Woo.
I'd rather just simply share my poetry.
Okay, that would be great. Elijah, when you're done, I'd like to ask you a few questions if you don't mind. So I'm going to take myself off of the stage and allow you to have it all to yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Elijah B. Pringle III.
Okay, today I would like to share 3 brief poems. I have been experimenting a lot with form, and one of the forms I've been enjoying lately is one called a duplex, which is a form that was created by Jericho Brown. It's more of a word scheme than a rhyme scheme poem, and the way it works is that it's 14 lines, similar to a sonnet, and the first and last line are the same, and then what happens is the last word in line 2 becomes the last word in line 3, and so on and so on and so on. So without any further ado, this is my attempt at a duplex. It was Tuesday, 16th of March, 2021. To sip slowly and let it seep into you. That's the very finest way to drink tea. At an Asian restaurant, you'll get tea prepared by those who are invisible. Poor Asian mothers are invisible. They're not valuable, yet they make a life. This is what they cart because they gave life. They're a tea cart that rattles about to serve, even the ones with wives who do not serve. They do so because of their children. They do so because of their children as they feed and clothe and heal them. give remedy, and with broken tongues tell them to sip slowly and let it seep into you. So that was my attempt at a duplex, and as you can see, it's more of a word scheme than a rhyme scheme. And I just wanted to write about what was happening to another people of color in our existence, or in our mutual, I guess you could say, suffering, and also triumph. And it is about triumph. The next piece I would like to share is something that I noticed today. I just finished this piece a few minutes ago, and it's untitled. Why are Target practice sheets black silhouettes? Is this to help prepare them to recognize me? The closer you get to my core, the higher the score. 7 points if you hit my left or right arm. See, you lose 3 points because I can survive. Get a little closer, like our extra drive. Now you are up to 8 points, and hopefully you are hitting one of my internal organs. And if it is a vital one, you get a bonus point. My heart is 2/3 to the left, and what's left hides to the right. But if you hit my core, then you are bound to strike it, and you receive a perfect 10. Yes, you get the maximum points because I fell. Is that why your practice sheets identify me? The last poem that I'd like to share is To Thee I Sing, the true national anthem. Light beams down and bends at my bed, runs across the cover and strikes my head. The shade is torn, I know by the dawn's early light. God bless the search beams went out late last night. America, America, land of grime. America, America, full of pride. Sweet land of poverty, to thee I sing, to thee I sing. Talking cars full of promises and lies. This idealism will exhaust alibis. Slums surviving, so proudly we hail. Big brother's happy if he knows he hasn't failed. America, America, a chicken in every pot. America, America, each man makes his lot. Sweet land of hypocrisy, to thee I sing, to thee I sing. The window cymbals as the trolley drum rolls. My bed rocks rattling in my soul. The gunshots are the bombs bursting in air. See the dead soldiers lying all over the stairs. America, America, I'll fight in thee. America, America, watch me bleed. Sweet land of morbidity, sweet land of hypocrisy, sweet land of poverty. To thee I sing, to thee I sing. Thank you.
So I'm thinking that thank you was my cue to come back. I guess I'm right because I was like, oh, maybe he has more because the brother done sang, he done did his poems. It was amazing, Elijah. So like I read in your bio that you do several things, and I'm considering that like a double triple threat of all of your talents, Elijah. What do you like the best? What really has you getting up in the morning, staying up late at night? What do you enjoy the best out of all of your talents?
I would say that of late, it has been writing. Sometimes I've been reading so many different writers now, so I think writing is what keeps me awake at night, sometimes throughout the night. But if you had asked that question, um, let's say 2 years ago, it would have to be dance because I love movement. I love movement.
So what kind of dancer are you? I had no idea when I first met you. You surprised me. I had did a poem on another platform, and right in the middle of the poem, you bust out with some song there, and accompanied the poem, and it was like the most awesome evening I've had in a long time. I was not aware that you also dance. What type of dancing do you do?
Um, well, in a former life, I actually studied classical dance. My teacher was with the Pennsylvania Ballet, so I studied there for a little bit of time. But what happened was I started too late in life, and therefore it was too much strain on my body. So from that, I actually went into a deep depression, and I came out of the depression because I had a music teacher, and so I started studying
And
voice.
we are interviewing with Elijah B. Pringle the third, the second, and the first, because he's been here 3 times. And I think I'm finally meeting up with the third at this point.